We're here in Hamilton, Montana today, and I'm with a very special brother. Andy Shetler is here with me, and I'm going to ask him to give his story today. He has a very good story of the delivering power of Jesus Christ. And so Andy is from originally from the Amish background. And so Andy, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from and a little bit of your history. And then we want to go in and hear your story of what you used to be and how you were delivered and how things are today.
Amen.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so I would have grown up in Holmes County, Ohio. My family's Amish. Would have grown up in a very church-going, Bible-believing family. And I just kind of ventured down the wrong road. And when I was 17 years old, my mom died. And me and her were very close. And I don't want to use this for an excuse for anything, but when she died, I got bitter, really bitter at just God and life and the whole world, and I started a life of drugs and alcohol. And
so at that time, you had never made a commitment to the Lord up to that time.
Never.
Okay, but you knew the way of salvation.
I knew the way of salvation.
You knew the way of salvation, but you had never personally come to the Lord in that.
No.
And then the death of your mother, that just kind of took you for a loop.
Yeah.
Okay, then what happened?
I just kind of went into a downward spiral, and I've always had great opportunities. I was a foreman of a crew in Ohio, and I lost that all to drugs. Then around 2004, I got another opportunity at life to move to Kansas, and I had a good job there. I was a crew foreman there, and the drugs just kept continually getting worse.
So when you say you were on drugs, now, was that a little bit of marijuana? Or
oh, no, this is marijuana and coke and crack and meth and pills and just a whole lot.
The whole 9
lot,
yards, like
yeah.
you say. You were on it.
And,
okay, and I think you said your hair were down here.
Yeah, I had long hair. I even went so bad as, I got hooked on the needle, and takes you to a whole nother realm.
So how could you function if you were on drugs? How could you function on your job?
Back then, if I didn't have drugs, you wouldn't see me in public. I did drugs to go out in public.
Okay, so in other words, you couldn't function without drugs.
I couldn't function without drugs. I didn't want to live. If I wasn't high, I just didn't want to live. I mean, I was a monster.
So then you were taking all these drugs. That must have taken up most of your money then, too.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
I never had. I had my next check spent by the time I have it. By the time I got it, it was spent already. I know what it's like to spend your last $10 on a fix. I know what it's like to sleep under a bridge. I know what it's like to live in a car. I know what it's like to crawl around the floor for 2 or 3 hours looking for a fix to try to get high. Just the whole lifestyle of no hope. And
so you were hopeless at that, but yet you could keep a job. You could still keep your job, right?
At that
in Kansas.
point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then what happened?
Finally led up to a drug test.
So your employer asked you to take a drug test.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
what? I told him I'm not taking a drug test. That I'm dirty. I'm just going to save the hassle here. That it's been an honor knowing you. Thank you for the job, but I'm glowing. I'm just going to save you the hassle for, I'm not doing this drug test. And I walked away from there. And, you know, when you think it can't get any worse, and it can get worse. And
So then it got worse. You walked away from the job, and did you get another one then, or how was it?
no, well, I had said earlier, I know what it's like to sleep under a bridge, live in a car. That stuff did not come until after I left.
After you left the job?
After I left that job. Then it just went continuously
So how
worse.
did you get your money for drugs after you didn't have a job?
I sold drugs to support my habit, and I did little odd jobs here and there, and just bounced from, you know, dope house to dope house to get a fix, and you know, misery loves company, so everybody finds each other, and you know, to get their fix on, and so yeah, it just.
You went lower and lower and lower,
Yeah.
and so finally it was hopeless, right?
Oh yeah, it was very hopeless.
Okay, tell me about it.
So a lot of times my family would try to get a hold of me, and there was no way that I was going to let them see me in this condition. Just the guilt that was on me, and I didn't want them to see me like this. And so it kept just getting lower and lower, and like I said earlier, kicked out of my place I was staying at, and sleeping under a bridge for a little while, and sleeping in a car, and just bouncing around, and finally led to the place where I got arrested for half a pound of marijuana. And so we drug that out for over a year. I had a court-appointed attorney, and that should have been enough to wake me up, but it didn't. I was just so hooked into, you know, the devil had me. It was just, there was no hope. And for me, the clearest way to explain hell on earth is having no hope. That tomorrow looks darker than today. That you know.
So when you were there without hope, did you ever think of the Lord at all?
Oh yes, I could feel people praying for me.
Okay.
There was times that something hit me that I knew at that exact moment somewhere somebody was praying for me.
Okay.
I can't explain it, but I could feel it.
You could feel it.
I could feel it that right now somebody's praying for me. And I always wondered if it's my dad, or if it's my family, or if it's a church somewhere, but I knew it. I just knew it.
So did that give you any hope then?
Not really.
Okay, because did you think you were too far?
I thought I was too far, that there's no escape from this. That, you know.
So were you afraid of dying, or were you suicidal or depressed, or how?
Oh, the only time suicide would come is when you run out of drugs. You know, drugs is an escape from reality. Is what drugs are. It's just a band-aid to it. Makes all the bad things just numb for, you know, a little bit until you sober back up again, and they all come back. They all come back.
Okay, so you were there hopeless, but you sensed that somebody was praying, but it didn't give you hope because you thought, I've gone too far, it's too bad, it's too late, and all of that.
Yeah, I knew that. When somebody would say you're an addict, you know, I would even, you know, readily agree that Yeah, I know I'm an addict.
So you freely admitted who you were. Some people are in denial for a while if they're a drunk or whatever.
Yeah, everybody goes through that, most people, you know.
But you were way beyond that.
I was beyond that.
You were at the place where there's no hope, I might as well,
Yeah.
this is it. Huh?
This is, I just knew this is what it's gonna be like till I, die.
And then
Kick the
what?
bucket, so to speak.
Was it clear to you what would happen if you would die?
Yeah, I knew that, I just knew there was no hope that I'm going to eternal hell.
You're going to hell. You knew
Yeah.
that. Did that frighten you at all, or?
Yes, it frightened me, but you just do more drugs to
numb that out.
To numb that
Okay.
out. It just kind of overrides that.
That is so sad for
Yeah.
people to be in that situation. But you're not there. So what happened after that then?
So after all that, now I'm a felon, no driver's license, thousands of dollars in fines and warrants out for my arrest and community corrections, and just one step away from,
From prison.
or
Okay.
death, or, it's just absolutely no hope.
So you knew that the next thing, according to the natural order of things, was either going to be prison or death.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
did you prefer one over the other?
Death sometimes looked inviting, just to, I always thought maybe sometime I'd do that ultimate shot that would just
Take you out.
just take me out. And then sometimes, prison didn't look so bad anymore either, because maybe that's my only way out of this. It was just like there's chains around your heart. I could see the key. The key was Jesus, but I couldn't get it. I just couldn't get it. Something had to bring it to me some way. It's kind of hard to explain, but I was just stuck.
But did you desire it? Did you desire Jesus in that low time of life? Did you desire Him? Or did you just see it as, well, it's too late for me, I can't reach it?
I thought I couldn't reach it.
Yeah,
I thought
okay.
there was no hope.
But you never, at that point, you didn't come to the place yet where you would cry out to Him?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, because the situation I was in just seemed so hopeless that I didn't see no way out. And one evening I was doing a drug deal out on a dirt road, right out next to the place where the guy that gave me another chance at life.
Now this was in Kansas.
This was in Kansas. Okay. That I had walked away from, that led up to that drug deal. I hadn't seen him in at least 4, if not 5 years. And I was doing a drug deal out there.
Right on the road?
Right on the road, out in the country and on a dirt road. And I saw this headlight coming, must have been a mile and a half away. And I knew it. I knew this was him.
That is amazing.
Here
you're not walking with the Lord, and yet you knew who's coming up the road.
I knew it was him. It was the last person I wanted to see, especially doing what I was doing. And that guy went by, slammed on the brakes, rolled his window down, and called out and asked if that's who he thinks he is. And me just hanging my head, did not want to face him, all tore up with drugs and dealing drugs.
And this was the same person that you had worked for earlier.
It is.
That had asked you to take a drug test.
It is.
Yeah, and then you walked away from the job.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
So he backed up and asked me if I would like to work for him again. And I did not know where or what kind of job he had for me, but I knew if I'd work for him again, it couldn't be there. So I told him to keep talking. He said, to Montana.
Yes.
And then I was interested. And
had you ever been in Montana before?
I had never been to Montana.
So you didn't know what you're coming to?
I didn't have a clue.
Did you know people up here?
I knew of 2 families that I would have known back in probably the early 90s.
Okay.
That I hadn't seen them.
Okay.
But I knew they were somewhere in the area. But I knew at that point, something told me that if I don't take this opportunity and latch onto this with both hands, that this opportunity will never ever come again.
See, that's the mercy of God right there.
Yes.
See, even in the midst of when you thought there's no hope, yet it seems that the Lord was speaking to you and warning you that, hey, I'm offering you through this brother, I'm offering you this route to deliverance, which, yeah, you had the witness, you have to take a hold of this with 2 hands, and that could be your escape. Okay.
I just knew in my heart that this was it. And we talked for a little while, and we exchanged phone numbers, and I still couldn't see a way out, of my situation. But I remember leaving that night, I was hooping and hollering, and I was the only one in the car.
Really? Okay.
And I thought, this might happen, this is a possibility. I just didn't see it.
But you sensed hope in this.
I sensed hope in this, that I have a new start. I have a chance. If this would all come to play, that I have another chance at life.
Okay.
And
that's the mercy of God, I tell you.
Yes. And so we exchanged phone numbers, and it must have been about 2 or 3 months until I heard from him again. And he called me out, invited me over for dinner, and so we ate dinner, and after dinner we went out on the porch, and he wanted to hear my story of where I'm at, what's up, where are you at since the last time I talked to you. And I was always just brutally honest with him. I just never held back, and I just spilled it out and told him that, look, I'm a felon now. I'm a community corrections officer. I'm one step away from going to prison. I'm just walking a very fine line here. I don't have a driver's license.
And you were driving every day?
I was driving every day.
Without a driver's license?
Yeah. I had warrants out for my arrest for driving without a license of stuff I didn't pay for. So had the cops looking for me, and just thousands of dollars in court fines and a bunch of court-ordered stuff. And so he asked me if he could go talk to my corrections officer, and I just didn't see how, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
If you can convince her to
But you didn't see any hope in that?
I didn't see any hope in that either. Okay. And the following week, I went in to see her, and she told me that he came and talked to her, and they talked it over, and that they believe that this would be a good thing for me to do, is move to Montana, give me a fresh start. And naturally, I was all into this.
So now you had not come to the Lord at all yet at this point.
No.
And so why should they trust you with this? Why? That brother that was helping you, he must have really been hearing from the Lord.
Yes.
To give you that chance. I mean, who would do that? What I'm
only
saying?
a man of God.
Yeah.
Only a man. He had shown me a lot of things. The mercy he had shown me. the chances that he's given me. I have a lot of respect for that man.
Now, don't you think that you'd said earlier how that you had felt the prayers of God's people at certain points along the way, and I think we can conclude that all this arrangement, the Lord putting it on the heart of this man of God, and also the things that were coming together about Montana and the corrections officer and all of that, that had to be God moving in their heart in answer to prayer of your relatives and the people who knew you were praying. And I think it's important to see that this must have been the answer to prayer for all the people that were praying for you.
It was.
That God was arranging these things. And so, we need to see that because let's not stop praying for people who are as bad off as he was.
Amen. Never, ever stop praying. I believe I'm here because of people who didn't stop praying. I believe since I got saved and stuff, I know that we hold the power to turn someone's keys. We all hold somebody else's keys that we can turn with prayer. And somebody was holding my keys. A lot of people were holding my keys, and through their prayers, that key got turned.
Hallelujah.
And when I look back now at all the things that happened, it's just so God. It's a miracle. I am a miracle.
Yeah.
You talk to my family and they would say I'm a miracle. Everybody that knew me says I'm a miracle.
Amen. That's right.
And
so in your story now, you're still not born again.
I'm still not born again, no.
So now you're ready to move to Montana. Is that the next thing now?
That is.
Okay.
So I called this guy up and told him that I talked to my probation or the corrections officer, and she okayed me to move. I did have a job at that time at a welding shop, and he asked me if I needed to put a 2 weeks notice in. I said no, I can go. So he bought me a truck, took care of all my legal stuff in Kansas, paid all that off. And so I was I'm not sure anymore, but I think it was a 1.5 year sentence, community corrections. So this would have been late September. And I got sentenced in, was it April or May? So June, July, August, September. So I was about 4 to 5 months into this 1.5 year sentence of community corrections officer, which I would have never made if I'd have stayed in Kansas.
You wouldn't have made it because what?
Of all I was into. It was just ready to happen.
Okay. So you were just ready to really get in worse yet.
Right. It was just.
So the Lord just salvaged you in the nick of time.
It's so Lord.
Okay.
And so I headed for Montana, and I remember him praying for me sitting in his driveway, and I'll never forget this. He said, he was praying, he said, "Oh Lord, we are not sure if this guy's legal, but we need your hand over him." He said these prayers, and I loaded stuff on the truck, and I headed for Montana. And I had been up, I don't know how many days before I did as much drugs as I could, headed for Montana.
You did as much drugs as you could.
Yeah, because I knew I'm leaving. This is probably going to be the last time.
So you had in mind you're going to quit drugs when you go to Montana.
Yeah.
So you were loading up for just to have one last, but you didn't overdose enough to kill yourself.
Right.
Okay.
I did one last plunge. And I made it to Mitchell, South Dakota. And my truck broke down. It was a fuel pump, some issues, and I had tools on my truck. And I took took my gas tank down as a fuel pump, and it was right over Labor Day weekend. Long story short, I had to get a tow truck, and they hauled me into Mitchell, South Dakota, and worked on my truck for a day. And thought we had it fixed. And so I headed out, left Mitchell, South Dakota, and I made it to Buffalo, Wyoming, and my truck broke down again. And looking back, this is spiritual, man. The devil was trying to keep me out of what was coming. And I didn't have, I just thought, well, this is how my luck goes, So long story short, we had somebody from Montana came and finally picked me up in Buffalo, Wyoming, and took me the rest of the way.
I see.
And so I was in Montana, I'd say a couple weeks, without drugs.
So how did that affect you? Okay, so now you're not taking drugs. What happens then?
Just hellacious nightmares and withdrawals and just.
Is it painful?
It's
mental torment.
It's mental. It's mental torment. It's hard to explain. Cold shivers and cold sweats and no sleep and nightmares that are just the worst of the worst of the worst. And
like a demonic attack.
Yes.
Nightmares
Yes.
is what it amounts to, maybe.
Very much so. And everything led up to the point where could I go but to the Lord moment.
Okay.
And
that's where the Lord was directing you.
And I got on my knees and I started praying. Didn't know how to pray, and I just started demanding Satan out of my life in the name of Jesus, and I just repeat this and repeat this. And it took quite a while, and all of a sudden this thing started breaking. And up to that point, I hadn't known the last time I cried. I was so cold, so numb, just a cold heart. There was nothing anybody could say or do. It was just cold. And for the first time in I don't know how long, this thing started breaking. And the more I bawled and wept, the more it was just like it was coming out of me.
And there's nobody with you at that
There was
point.
nobody with me at that time.
All by yourself. You
All by
called out
myself.
on the Lord and started. Yeah.
And I had been bawling for so long that I started worrying that my next door neighbors was going to hear me and wonder what's going on. And I don't know how long this went on, but these shakes and this high came on me that no drug could ever match.
Okay.
And
so in other words, all of a sudden the presence of the Lord came on you.
It was like
and
right there.
Yeah. Okay.
I had never felt so close to the Lord before.
And you knew your sins were forgiven you.
I knew my sins were forgiven.
Hallelujah.
And when I got up off my knees, I was never so sure about anything in my life that I had to call my dad and ask him for forgiveness. And I called the brother that gave me this opportunity to move to Montana. He was 2 minutes away from walking through his church door preaching, and I could hear the joy coming. And he said, "You've already been forgiven."
Hallelujah.
My dad said, "You've already been forgiven."
Okay.
And for the first time, I felt a joy that I remember feeling as a child. It was genuine. It was real. I thought that it didn't exist anymore.
And the peace of God.
The peace of God. And
hallelujah. Oh, isn't that?
It's the most incredible thing. And a month and a half later, my corrections officer called me from Kansas and said, we're sending you a paper. You are off scot-free. We dropped all your court-ordered stuff. everything is dropped.
How
You
did
are
that come about?
the Lord.
Yeah.
Miracle.
Oh.
Yeah, it's God.
Yeah.
And I look back, now I look back at all these things, and that's so God, it's,
Nobody else could arrange
nobody
that.
else could
Yeah.
arrange that, ever.
So then you walked away a free man
Yeah,
with being forgiven by God
yeah,
and being released by the law.
being released by the
And
law.
you're a free man now with the peace and joy of the Lord.
I am, and
And how long ago was this now?
this would have been about 4 years.
4 years now.
4 years. And every now and then I periodically text with that same corrections officer.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I never, ever thought I would ever text my corrections officer. That's the last person on earth that you would see. But
Well, that was a powerful testimony. Did you tell her what happened to you?
I did.
Yes.
I did. One of these times, if I go to Kansas, I want to stop.
You want
in.
to stop in it? That would be good.
Yeah.
She needs
Yeah.
to hear that testimony.
That some people are a success.
Mm-hmm.
But out of all this, don't ever stop praying for lost ones. Never, ever. If there was anybody that probably given up, would have been everybody that was close to me, and they never gave up, and they prayed, and prayers do work. Miracles do happen.
Yes.
I realize most people that are into what I was into, there's 3 ways out. There's prison, there's death, and there's Jesus Christ. And but the only way out, to truly out, is Jesus Christ.
Amen. That's right.
Because you can go, it has to happen in here. You can go to prison, and if it doesn't happen in here, you'll be out and you'll be doing the exact same thing. It's something that happens inwardly, and I just
Amen.
thank
Hallelujah.
God for.
Yeah. So since then now, okay, so that was, you were in Helena.
Great Falls.
Great Falls.
Yeah.
During that time. And then you got transferred, your work got transferred to the Hamilton area here.
So the
Okay.
Hamilton area, yeah.
So then you've been living here now for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's almost 2 years now.
And you're growing in the Lord. You never went back to drugs.
No.
You never went back to the old life in these 4 years.
No.
Hallelujah.
No. And as time goes on, a person like me, I just came out of a Bible school, and I've learned so much in this that patience. I used to have a patience problem, and now when I have a patience problem, all I have to do is think about how long the Lord's waited on me, and it really, really helps my patience. That a lot of times we want things to happen.
Right.
We're American lifestyle, and we want hot fries, and we want them now, 30 seconds through the drive-through, and the Lord doesn't work that way. No.
Yeah.
Looking back at the lowest time in my life, broke, owing my boss, my boss that paid all my fines. Still owed him all that money. I did have a place now in Great Falls, but just a broke person. And that's where the Lord wants you.
Yes. Yes.
When that's when you'll feel Him the most.
Yes.
And to live that always is something that I strive for, that broken thing. But when you go through the New Testament, and you'll see it says, "Be ye imitators of Jesus." Well, there's no self in Jesus. He was here to serve and not to be served. And you go through all the Paul's letters and stuff, and you'll notice that he continuously says, always and without ceasing. And he's always praying. And it's never a self-centeredness.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I'm learning that we're not here for ourselves.
Mhm.
We're here to help for someone else.
Yes.
We're
yes.
here, and that's what I believe the true Christianity is. And I'm just learning a lot of these things, and that's what I want to strive
Yes,
for.
yes.
And
Hallelujah.
there is life, there is hope,
Yes.
there is a God, there
Amen.
are still miracles.
Amen. That's right.
God is alive and well. Yes.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Well, I hope somebody will hear this that will take it to heart, and may this be an encouragement for people to believe, to know that God works today even as He did 2,000 years ago. He's the same today. Thank you, Andy. Is there anything else yet before we close this?
100% agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Andy. It's been good.
Welcome.
And God bless you very much.
Thank you.